PCP, although it lies outside the scope of the EU procurement directives, it has to be implemented according to the treaties of the principles of the EU treaty, meaning that there is no flexibility on that part. There is a flexibility on how to execute PCP, but there is no flexibility with regard to the principles of the EU treaty. Therefore, there has to be the call has to be open and transparent, and has to ensure equal treatment to all participants. Now, for PCP, it is not the case. PCP is a normal procurement procedure where the public sector is willing to act as a launch customer, meaning that he is willing to uptake an innovative solution that is close to the market but not yet fully commercialized, and therefore he is willing to if he wants to test in its services, and then to deploy it. One of any of the procedures stipulated in the framework of the EU procurement directives can be used for PPI, so long they are on the condition that they are open, so they are not allowed restricted procedures for PPI. We have also the possibility to insert provisions as the communication of 2007 does, and as Horizon 2020 also does, like the following: the majority of R&D should take place in Europe.
Okay.
So this is very important,
yes,
for the European companies, or for the companies that they would like to bid to such a tender, but they have to respect this provision. They have to implement the majority of R&D, meaning more than 50% and more in Europe. You can find many interesting news with regard to PCP in the new procurement directive. First of all, as I have already mentioned, PCP, it is stipulated clearly that PCP lies outside the scope of this directive. Secondly, what is important is that for the first time, a provision with regard to joint procurements is inserted in the framework of the new procurement directives. What does that mean? That means that when this directive will be transposed in the national legal systems of all the member states, then the member states cannot have provisions that do not allow the implementation of these joint procurements. This territory, this area, was not regulated in this. It was a gray area, in the meaning that it was not regulated in the framework of the previous procurement directives. That's why that allowed some member states to insert provisions that didn't allow the implementation of joint procurements. This now is not the case, so joint procurements are possible and are envisaged in the framework of the new procurement directives. In DG Connect, we have a long tradition in encouraging and co-financing joint procurements, because currently we have ongoing projects that implement joint procurements. Our procedures where foresee the implementation of R&D and deployment in the same procedure. This means that when you launch your call for tender, you are asking the tenders to provide an offer not only for the development of the R&D, but also for the deployment of the innovative solution. That is one difference. The second difference is that for PCP, the competitive character throughout the process is obligatory. For innovation partnership, this may be an option, meaning that you may have framework agreements with with many vendors running in parallel, but you may have also only one framework agreement with only one vendor. For PCP, it's not the case. You have to have you start with many vendors from the beginning. Now, another difference is that the new framework, the communication for the new framework for state aid rules for R&D and I clearly states that PCP is not a state aid issue on the condition that is implemented correctly and according to the communication of 2007, which is not the case for the innovation partnerships.